I'm not going to really be able to put this in frame the way that I want to, but especially if I want myself in it. I feel good enough right now that I could talk about this for a bit. It is called, well, first of all, I think, what do we got? 30 by 40 inches, thick profile canvas, acrylics. It is called Westley, Painted and Quartered Meets the Ship of Theseus. So, let's talk about that. I'm going to put that down, and you can see this silly face instead of that silly face. So, this is part of that ongoing body of work that I believe is now complete. Self-portrait series that I've had more than one title for it, but I think I'm going to go with Majesty and the Duty of Death. Anyway, Westley. Which Westley are we talking about? Wesley from The Princess Bride. If you have not read the book or seen the film, Wesley is our main protagonist, and the line that he is famous for is "As you wish" to Princess Buttercup. That is, "As you wish" is the line, is the real Wesley line. So, Wesley, painted and quartered. I just thought it was a punny way of just kind of referencing being drawn and quartered as a method of torture and eventual death. Or execution would be more accurate, I believe. So we got the reference to Wesley, the "as you wish" notion that is expressed in his character, which there's a lot going on there. Painted and quartered, and I kind of just wanted to visually show that with the taping off of certain sections. My space is so limited here. This is a bigger piece, and it's hard to get it in frame at an angle that I want you to see. There's too much light behind me, and so this is just the best I can do right now. Or maybe not. No, that's the best I can do right now. That's weird. There we go. So, painted and quartered. I think that this whole exhibition is really about mortality and my denial of it, and maybe the questions of how to accept that, and also what it means to accept that, conversations about legacy. And so referencing death isn't going to be anything new, but I also think that I'm giving life to this canvas, right, with that discussion of death. Last part of that title, Meets the Ship of Theseus. So this is kind of where we'll tie this all together a bit here. If you do not know what the Ship of Theseus is, I would call it a philosophical thought experiment, I guess. Or there's another, I don't know, a philosophical device for discussion. The Ship of Theseus basically is the exercise in thought and questioning of, if you were to have a ship, a boat, vessel, water vessel, that you replace parts on over time, and over years and years and years you replace all these parts, is it still the same ship or not? I think one of the reasons we use that is because historically too, people have named their ships, and not just like the ship of whoever, but giving it a name and its own kind of personification and identity to this thing. And much like a person, you could say okay, well, your skin cells, are you really the same person physically? Are you really the same person mentally, emotionally? If you believe in the notion of a soul, or whatever you want to call that, hopefully you change over time and there's growth. and you are not the same person that you were, yesterday or last year or a decade ago. So the Ship of Theseus is just that exercise in asking the question: if you replace all these parts and they're different, are you really the same person? Are you really is this thing the same thing as a tangible object or intangible notion? So I think part of what I was really expressing in this piece, and I mean, I wish I could show again, like the angle is kind of weird, but it's a very raw piece, very frustrating in a sense. It's one of the last pieces, if not the last piece, that I made in the studio that is was in the storage room in the basement. And I had an idea for it. It was kind of last minute. From conception to completion, it was 48 hours. I thought about it, whatever night when I was going to bed, I wrote down the title, and then I, next day, painted the background, made sure that was dry, and then I started, I started painting, and then I put a finish on it, and that was just, within 2 days, it was done. It was just painted in one standing, I guess. But it was incredibly frustrating. And I think part of that was due to just my emotional state at the time, and going back to acrylic after doing a couple oil paintings was also really challenging. Doing it in that space, because it's a larger piece, and I've been using a table easel for a lot of other pieces, and I didn't have, it wouldn't fit on the table easel, and I didn't have the same access that I had to a wall, even to be able to just put a nail up and then hang this thing there. And actually I would have needed 2 nails because there's a crossbar in the center. And so it was kind of at a weird angle. I was trying to work in this very confined space in this horrible environment that's not conducive to doing this kind of work. And it was incredibly frustrating. And I believe that showed in the rawness of a lot of the paint strokes. I'm going to just get up and move so I can put this here. Yeah. So I really, really like it. It's one of my favorite things that I've done in a while. And just getting into more technical stuff before I go back into theme. But it was challenging, and I believe that the challenge of it just translated to the movement in this piece, and just the way that I depicted myself also. Not using acrylics for a while and having them dry so fast just made for this very aggressive approach that I haven't used in painting for a while, especially with self-portraits. And it was actually kind of nice to be able to do that, and felt like I did that successfully. That kind of really went with the theme of the piece. So I guess to get back to that before ending this, I think when you maybe feel as though you were a person that gives and gives and gives, or sacrifices, in the Westley of it all, the as you wish, as you wish, as you wish, everything is for someone else or for other parties, you feel like you lose a sense of yourself. And I feel like I definitely have lost a lot of myself in this past year and a half. And that is kind of the sentiment relating back to Westley, and then, the being painted and quartered and dissecting myself, the death of myself, the rebirth of myself, and also meeting the Ship of Theseus to ask those questions of who am I? Who am I now? And why? And that this is the result. This is the result of that discussion with myself. So Westley painted and quartered meets the Ship of Theseus.